The gentleman from Arizona is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I enter into the record without unanimous consent. NIH shuts down Beagle Lab after 40 years of taxpayer-funded cruelty. The director of that was Anthony Fauci.
Without objection. Gentleman from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Democrats see no distinction between Kristi Noem's experience with her dog Cricket with the assault of animals that are used by law enforcement. Well, I think they'd have a point if Kristi Noem was a foreign national and she shot a law enforcement dog named Cricket. This would certainly apply to her, but none of those circumstances apply in this case. We understand that many Democrats see no problem in obstructing law enforcement when they're obstructing laws the Democrats don't like or are committed by guests of our country, whether here legally or illegally. The ranking member reminds us that one can be turned away at a point of entry administratively, and that is correct, but that doesn't apply to foreign nationals who've gotten beyond the port of entry. This makes all foreign nationals deportable if they have attacked law enforcement animals. The former ranking member objects that this doesn't require a conviction. Well, actually, it requires either a conviction or an admission of the crime. And in fact, that language is identical to the grounds for inadmissibility for crimes involving not just moral turpitude, but controlled substance offenses under the Immigration Nationality Act. Even for grounds of removability, convictions are not always required. For example, an alien can be removed for overstaying his visa, violating his non-immigrant status or condition of entry, smuggling aliens, committing marriage fraud, being a drug user or drug addict, falsely claiming U.S. citizenship, or engaging in espionage. By requiring at least an admission, this bill conforms to the pattern of other grounds of inadmissibility and removability. Here, the federal crime has clear elements that are straightforward with a criminal provision. And if an alien, like Freddie's attacker, had admitted to such reprehensible conduct, why can't that alien's own admission be used to show that that alien is inadmissible or deportable? I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentlelady from Vermont is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just briefly here. So we're sitting here debating the BowWow Act. And just to be clear, I'm a huge supporter of dogs. I have a dog myself. I have an incorrigible Labradoodle named Wheelie, and I love my dog. But I love my 15-year-old daughter more. And it is so shocking to me that we have not heard from any of the victims of Jeffrey Epstein in this committee, that we have, I'm very happy to meet the dog here. It's actually bringing me some joy seeing the dog here in the committee. We need some joy around here. But again, I want to speak for so many of my constituents who have been so disgusted by the rhetoric that has come out of some MAGA talking heads in the last few weeks around the trafficking that was done, not just by Jeffrey Epstein, but so many well-connected, powerful men. And we have time to debate the BowWow Act in here, and yet we have not made any time to hear directly from this women who have never received any bit of justice. And so again, I think I speak for so many of my constituents. We love our dogs, we love our animals. We have a lot of animals in Vermont. It's a rural area. But my God, we love our kids more. And it's just shocking to me that we spend time on this, on a bill that is not needed to protect animals, that I do believe is a way to legitimize unlawful deportation. We can't seem to find time to give these women a voice here in this committee. I yield back.
The gentlelady yield.
Gentlelady yields to the ranking member.
Yeah.
I'm happy to yield to the ranking member.
Thank you, Ms. Ballant. Just to recap where we are to move things along, The bill would make deportable what is already deportable. It would treat as a crime what is already a crime. It takes the superb law enforcement work of Freddie and the human beings he's attached to, the police officers. It celebrates it, and we all celebrate it. They did a great job, and it all worked. The gentlelady makes an excellent point, which is, if we're really in that desperate of search for something to do, why don't we invite the Epstein survivors in here? They're dying to talk to us. They just had a big press conference outside. They want America to hear. They're saying it's time to blow open not just the Epstein case, but all of the cases of sexual abuse of children and young people across America that's been institutionalized in so many places. I mean, if we're really in that much of a hurt to find something to do, let's do that rather than dispense of the conviction requirement. Our friend tells us that this is tied up endlessly in red tape. It takes forever. This guy was held for 3 days and was out of the country. It worked great. The police did a great job. Freddie did a great job. The law is working. So this strikes me as completely unnecessary and somewhat transparent attempt to just pile on to a situation that's already working. There's nothing that advances our freedom in doing that. There's nothing conservative about doing that. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And this is trying to fix something that's working just fine, as the only case that's been identified vividly demonstrates with the presence of Freddie. So thank you for yielding to the gentlelady, and I yield back.
Ms. Ballant, would you yield?
I will yield.
I just had a thought. The Senate's kind of not in the best of lights these days for trying to give $500,000 or more to 8 senators. Maybe they'll give $500,000 or more to each of the victims of the crimes that they're covering up.
I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Gentlelady from Wyoming is recognized.
I voted for that. I voted for the Lake and Riley Act.
Hey, the time belongs to the gentlelady from Wyoming. Time belongs to the gentlelady from Wyoming.
Is about illegal conduct by illegal aliens. I hope that we can remember that's what the purpose of this is. With that, I yield to Mr. Roy.
I would just take a few seconds to note that in response to one of the comments from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle about wanting to focus on the abuse of spouses or abuse of women, that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle were all up in arms about the removal and deportation of Abrego Garcia earlier this year, and Abrego Garcia beat his wife. I yield back to the gentlelady from Wyoming.
Thank you for yielding. I hesitated to get into this thing with regard to Epstein, but I want to introduce for UC an article entitled "Joe Scarborough asked Dem Rep point blank why his party didn't call for Epstein file release sooner."
Without objection.
Yeah, and so for 4 years, it was myself and a handful of Republicans that were asking that the Epstein records be released. For 4 years, we were asking for those. But the Biden administration sat on their hands and did nothing, which is why Joe Scarborough asked, well, why didn't you ask? You had control. You had all 3 levers. You sat on your butts and didn't say anything. Now, I've met with victims of Epstein, and they've come in, and we've heard their testimony. Not in this committee necessarily, but I've heard them in committee. And I just want to remind you that maybe when you're crabbing and fussing and complaining and carrying on, maybe you ought to look in the mirror a little bit. I'll yield back.
I'd also like to note that it was the Democrat delegate from the Virgin Islands that was not only Jeffrey Epstein's mouthpiece during congressional hearings, but was his fixer. So if you want to raise questions about Jeffrey Epstein and who has things to hide, the Democrats, as my colleague from Arizona just stated, perhaps you should look in the mirror. It is one of yours. It is one of yours. It is the Democrats that were the fixers and the attorneys for Jeffrey Epstein. So I guess that it's very difficult for me to take you seriously as you attempt to turn this into yet another attack and another way to get Donald Trump. This isn't about Donald Trump. This is about the Democrats who were aligned with Jeffrey Epstein at the very time that they knew that he was a convicted felon as a pedophile, as a pedophile. So I don't believe your hysteria. I don't trust the way that you try to turn everything into screaming about Jeffrey Epstein, because it is extremely obvious that all you're attempting to do is deflect from your failures and try to cover up the fact that it was the Democrats that enabled him.
Would the gentlelady from Wyoming yield?
I will, yes.
Yeah, in this last minute, and I wonder if the gentlelady could confirm whether what I'm about to say is correct, that it was in fact President Trump's administration in 2019 that federally indicted Epstein in July of 2019. That it was in fact the Trump administration, the first term, that was going after Maxwell and set the stage for her indictment. That it was in fact the Trump administration, along with the Oversight Committee led by Republicans, that have released tens of thousands of pages of documents this year via the appropriate path of subpoena and making sure that more information is public. And then in fact, as the gentlelady from Wyoming noted, in a hearing that I was sitting in right next door in Oversight, where I was questioning Michael Cohen, literally while I personally was questioning Michael Cohen, we had a Democratic member of that committee that was texting in real time with already convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Is that correct? I yield back.
You are absolutely correct. I've watched the video. With that, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. The question.